Peace and welcome to another episode of the Edible Activist Podcast. I am your host and favorite edible activist, Melissa L. Jones here. Thank you for tuning in for another epic episode. So double whammy this week, y'all. I typically only do one interview, but we have a bonus interview for this week. But always, as a reminder, if you have not subscribed to the show, please find Food Talks in Color on YouTube and hit that subscribe button. If you have tuned into a show, I ask that you like the show and love it with your heart as always. And go ahead and drop us a comment. Let us know how you like the show, how you like the guest. The content is dynamic, as I always say. And most importantly, it really helps to, we're amplifying voices of Black people and people of color in food and agriculture. So the more that you share the love, share our content, the more that we can have more of a broader reach. So support us. Again, find us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, love it with your heart, and comment. Drop a note. Let us know what you like. So the other thing, as a reminder, I want to let you know that in addition to doing these shows on YouTube, we are still on iTunes and Spotify. So if you're like, Melissa, watching the video thing is not for me, I understand. Listen to a very good podcast as you clean, as you take a walk. I totally get it. I'm still old school. I love audio. Well, audio is not even old school. Let me not even say that. It's not old school, but I understand it's been the most traditional way how people listen to podcasts. So still on iTunes, still on Spotify. You can also rate us on iTunes and comment and let us know how you like the content, how you like the show overall. Look forward to hearing from you. All right, so not going to be before you long because I like to save all the conversation for my guests, but I am stoked because I have a new guest. I haven't interviewed this person before, and there are a lot of interviews that I've done for the very first time. But I'm very big on bringing guests back because it's not just a one-stop journey. But I'm super excited and just thrilled, and I just have all sorts of butterflies and giggly already because we are going to be talking about all things like flowers, right? Y'all have heard me before. I love flowers. It brings me so much joy. I've had the privilege of actually having florists on here before to have conversations around their experiences and journeys in the agricultural space and building their business. And so I am really, again, just stoked to have our guest for today, Shanice Fleming, who is the founder of Queenz Cuts Flowers based in Troy, New York. So we got upstate in the building, right? And so definitely we'll be talking to Shanice about her business, which is a CSA floral business. And so for those who aren't familiar with the model, we'll get more familiar with that. I know that you've heard me talk about CSAs as it relates to vegetable production. And so, yes, there are CSAs for flowers as well, so it's excited to lift up that model. And so I am going to bring Shanice to my virtual stage so that you all can chat with her and say hello. Hey, Shanice.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Good. I'm super excited to have you on the show. So you even, we're just starting, but I'm going to officially stamp you as an edible activist alum. Okay. I just want to do that. Just
Cool.
acknowledging and honoring your work already. I've definitely have tapped in and have been seeing all the wonderful ways that you've been contributing to not just your community, but to the planet and to yourself and feeding yourself in this field. And so just excited. And I know that you have a pretty awesome story. Your story, not that this is the start, but like you had experience like behind in the kitchen, as a chef and cooking, and then finding your way to agriculture. And so just really excited to make those connections, to just hear more about that journey as well. And so definitely would like for you to kick us off and let's make a connection. So before we start into the how Queenz Cuts Flower, which I love the name, by the way, got started. And I really want to speak more into the inspiration behind that name. I would like to make a connection like back to your interview. So now being in this ag space and looking back, like, were there any connections? Were you around folks who grew food, who grew flowers, who cultivated the land? Was that even part of your experience growing up? Looking back to looking like starting from where you am, but looking back to where you were, was there a connection that you've been able to make?
No, I grew up in Southside Jamaica, Queens. Um, a very non-agricultural. I didn't even know that this was a pathway for me, honestly. Um, my grandma that I lived with for most of my life, while I was living in Queens. until I was like 26. She's one of 13 from North Carolina and grew up on a farm and
Whoa.
was one of those people, one of those Black people who moved from rural South in order to pursue a better life in the North, you know. Um, so mostly I was just like like a New York City kid, you know, like I wasn't going. There were no community gardens really in my area, at least none that I was a part of, and it wasn't something I even remotely thought about doing.
Wow. Wow.
We also
Wow.
had no plants in the home, no real
Really?
plants. Yeah,
Wow.
just
Wow.
wasn't even a thought.
Th- Listen, no judgment, no judgment. We only had plants in the
Yeah.
house because my dad, even though my parents are from the South, a lot of people, I don't speak about this, and I actually should have my dad on the show. But my dad has a green thumb. You know, he worked in a greenhouse like in Mississippi,
Mhm.
and so like plants are his thing. But funny enough, I didn't make the connection when I was younger. Like I was just like, why the hell we got all these plants in the house? They're just here, you know. Just sitting here. So I never made that connection, but we just had plants all over the house with my dad. Yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So, grandma, did grandma ever spark any conversations about her experience on the land, or you just felt like she was just like, that's behind me, baby, I moved up here for a better life and this is it?
Yeah. I mean, like she moved to New York City in like the 60s. You know what I mean? So I feel like
Wow.
a lot of our elders around us, like they definitely put that path behind us and behind them, and they just work to survive and take care of their families. And you know, I feel like it's a lot in like Black culture, like we don't talk about that, or like it's like, yeah, I used to do that, and it's like this whole part of like their lives they don't express in full detail, you know.
Yeah, it's a familiar story. It's one of
Yeah,
many. One of many. It's
yeah.
very familiar. Very familiar. So, how did you find yourself in the kitchen? How did you find
Um,
yourself in the hospitality industry? You know, because that is a tough industry, as you know. I'm not telling you anything that you aren't familiar with or don't know, but how did you find yourself going down that path of culinary?
well, I'm not a part of it anymore, thank God.
Right.
I was cooking for 10 years, um,
Wow.
and I started really young. I started when I was like 18, 19. Um,
Wow.
growing up, I just watched the Food Network. So I think the Food Network kind of like came out on like Time Warner, which is now Spectrum, whatever, like the cable company that we had, is around when I was like 6 or 7, 5 or 6. So I would watch Emerald Lagasse all the time. And I would watch the Food Network content. Um, and from there, I was kind of like, I don't really know what I want to do, like as a kid, but like I always liked food. Um, then I went to school for like accounting, and I barely was there because I was working, 12, 14-hour shifts, trying to be able to like take care of myself and just make it. And I grew really tired of it. I got like a repetitive motion injury, and I
Mm.
started to plan my future and my exit out of the kitchen and how that was going to be. And I was like, I really want to not just feed rich people. Like, I don't want to like put all this time and effort and energy, or even like community, like people going out for dinner. Like, I wanted to reach an audience that actually needed the food. And initially, I had started thinking about growing food in Jamaica, Queens, since there are like a few lots open. Um, and then I went to like the Bronx Botanical Gardens because they have a program um, for like horticulture, agriculture stuff, and they told me I needed 500 hours of experience. So
No way.
I,
Shut the door. Okay.
yeah, like you need experience in order to enter the program. So I checked all these like local places, and it was just no room for me to learn. I made friends. I moved upstate, and I did that seasonally for 5 years, just like cooking, living with grandma. and then going upstate and working on various farms.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow. Wow. You know, I was struck when you said
Oh, wait, and also I didn't take the program. It was a crazy program where like you couldn't work and do it,
mhm.
and
Oh,
yeah, so it would have been 2 years of me not working and just doing that and traveling to the Bronx from Queens, which is 2 hours. It's crazy. So I didn't end up going through that program. And by like my second year of farming, it just didn't make any sense because I had already fell in love with flowers and I don't, yeah, I just didn't have it to like the education component.
yeah, yeah. You knew your lane.
Yeah.
You were like, no, this is it. So why? And that's
Yeah.
that's 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 glory for real.
Yeah.
You know, you saved some time, money, and everything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, really, goodness. And that just really struck me when you said 500 hours that they were requiring, because it makes me think back to a conversation that I had with and you and I were chatting before we started with Gail, who is the operator of Three Part Harmony Farm here in DC. And Gail and Gail's team, they are just launched a farmers training program. And one of the things that they were really intentional about is really having diversification of skill sets to for folks to apply. So not limiting it to just folks who had experience, in agriculture and so forth, but really opening it up, because like if someone was a librarian and they say, hey, like I really want to get into this work and I'm committed, you could apply, right? And so we talked about some of those barriers for people, especially people of color, right, entering into these spaces. And so I don't know what the dynamics and the demographic, the makeup was at the botanical gardens, but I was struck because now I'm just thinking back to that conversation of them just being really intentional and saying, hey, we don't want to put up all these roadblocks to hinder anyone from applying or thinking that they don't have what it takes, or expecting them to have all this experience. We don't want that. So but I'm glad that you found your lane, and here we are going to segue into your lane. Queen's cuts flower. When I first saw that, I was just like, yes. When I heard it, I was just like, yes. So definitely want to spend some time, talking about. So you were, working in hospitality, culinary for 10 years. That's a long time, especially, and for someone who's been a part of the hospitality industry, not culinary from the events perspective, but having worked with a lot of vendors, I've
Mhm.
seen it. So, but have not experienced it firsthand. But hospitality is tough. So moving upstate and having found your lane, having found your love for flowers, and knowing, like this is for me. And so then Queen's Cuts Flower Farm, is that, I'm saying it correctly, right? Please
It's
correct me if I'm
Queen's
not.
cut. It's Queen's
Cuts.
cut flowers. It's no S on the. It's not plural cut. It's Queen's
Oh, okay.
cut flowers, like Queens, the borough, like Queen's cut flowers.
I gotcha. Yes, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Awesome. So how did we so speaking to that, is that where the name originated from, the borough? Like how did the name come about for your business?
Well, it actually came about probably a day before, like I posted that I was gonna do the CSA. I thought about what the name of my farm would be for probably like, I don't know, like 2 years or something. Right? Like I was just like, what am I gonna name this thing? What am I gonna name this thing? And actually, my friend who I collaborated with this year, Dara Silverman, she runs Second Street Farms in Troy. She actually helped me come up with a name. Um, and it was like a 5 minute conversation, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, that worked.
That's it. We're rolling with it.
Yeah.
We're rolling
I
with
also
it.
like didn't wanna. It was also important for me coming from the city to hold that close to my heart, just
Mm,
because it's an unconventional pathway for
mm-hmm.
somebody growing up in New York City to like now do this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do I flowers just hold a special place in my heart. Like they just do. I call them the crayons of agriculture, like literally, like they're like our little natural like Crayolas, because I just love all colors. I don't care what kind of flower it is, I just love it. What do flowers symbolize to you? Because I know it's something, it has to be, I know it's deeper than the business, it's deeper than the model. But what does it symbolize for you in doing this work as a person of color day by day and what you're building and what you're bringing to the community?
For me, growing, period, flowers, of course, for me, that's like actively protesting what is going on. Like, I'm not somebody that's going to be in the street. You know what I mean? Like, I've done it and I know for a fact, like, numbers do matter when people are outside. Um, but I am not built for that. Like, it gets really intense for me. And a lot of people, like performative activism, all this stuff, like, for me, growing things is my way of protesting the food system, my way of
Mm,
protesting the cut flower industry, which is um it's crazy. There's all these, you don't think about it, right? Like you get lilies in the middle of um like now, October, they have to be dried. They have to be shipped from Colombia or Ecuador, from these places which more than likely are underpaying um these laborers.
mm-hmm.
Um and from there they're marked up and they're sprayed with heaps of chemicals in the field, and I do something completely different and my product looks completely different. And yeah, that's what it is for me. It's really like actively trying to kill the earth, kill myself, kill the people around me,
Mm,
um,
yeah.
and just show people by doing.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
I felt that. I felt that. And it's what you are built for and you know what you're not. And I'm just speaking generally, right? And
Yeah.
so when we hear the term, right, I know what I'm built for, and I ain't going
Right,
I
it's
know
too
I
much.
feel
I was
you.
there, the Black Lives Matter protest in Brooklyn. It was too much. It was too
It's
much. It was a lot for me.
it was
That weight
intense.
has been on my heart for a long time. Even now, still thinking about it. I can't even go to concerts and be in like
I
the pit. You know what I mean?
I
It's too much.
overstand. I overstand. I do. I do. And I keep telling people, like I joke when I say this, but I'm like, it's so weird out here in these streets for me. Like there's an uneasiness that I still have. And it's
Uh huh.
from the pandemic itself and what happened during the pandemic, pre-pandemic.
Mhm.
It's heavy. It's very heavy. So I overstand. I totally do. And so when we talk about, and that's why I love, and just speaking in terms of like edible activism, it's not everybody's down the street protesting. And you don't need to do that. There are acts, silent
Mhm.
acts, acts that don't need to be, shouted out with a bullhorn. Like, it's there. Those are those acts that you can still do for yourself, for your family,
Mhm.
for your community. That is, really opposing or pressing against the system that is not designed
Yeah.
for us. It's how I spend my
Yeah.
money. It's going to, Queen's cut flower farm to get my flowers
Queen's
and
cut
not
flower. Queen's cut
goodness.
flower farm.
What am I saying? What am I
Queen's
saying?
cut flower farm.
Is that what I'm not saying? Okay.
Yeah,
Why
that's what
can't
you're
be
not
that?
saying.
I'm sorry. I'm up here
That's all right.
messing up the sisters. It's not intentional, okay? But it's purchasing from your business and not
Yeah.
going to a larger retailer where I know for the reasons that you just named that the flowers, are being shipped from a whole nother country along with a lot of our food, right? So it's
Yeah.
that is a form of activism, and that is okay. We need more of that. A lot
Mhm.
more. A lot more of those acts. So I appreciate you for just lifting that up. How has your experience been in community in Troy? Because I'm assuming I've lived in New York for a couple of years. I don't think I've been to upstate a couple times. Beautiful. Love upstate New York. Never visited Troy though.
Mhm.
But making that move from the city to upstate and building your business, what has building community been like for you? What has been the experience? What has been the feedback? And do you feel like this is your place? Like this is it. Like I'm supposed to be planted here, even if it's just for a bit. So if you can just speak more to that, I would love to hear more.
Um, my experience with community here has been pretty good. Um, Surprisingly, like I feel like a lot of people have like rallied behind me, and I guess my core group of friends they're older, you know, and they also do a lot of different things in the community. Um, so it was like helpful getting plugged in with them and like having that kind of support. Um, and for the most part, people are very accepting. People are very happy. Like I've been on 3 news channels, so the word is getting out. Um, yeah, I feel accepted by the community here. But you know, there is this. It's like kind of desolate in this way, like in upstate New York.
Mm,
Like it's not. I don't see people who look like me all the time. You know, it's it can be very white, and there are black folks who live out here, right? But like, if you parked a car somewhere and you sat down and you just watched people walk on the street, that same like biodiversity, that diversity you get in Queens, which is every single, it's literally, it hosts the largest amounts of people from different places. So
mm,
I went from seeing people brown and all everything under the rainbow you could ever imagine, like
yeah.
the most
Mm-hmm.
diverse places in Queens, from going into like these more rural spaces or smaller cities where I don't have that same joy um, in my day to day.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know if Troy is a permanent home for me. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if it's my forever home. Um, but I would probably stay here for a while. The rent is cheap, you know. I have somewhere to grow my flowers, so it works.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's important, especially the rent is high, the food is high, everything is high.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, let's definitely want to chat to about the model, you know. So in your chosen model for, you know, to it's a CSA, correct?
Mhm.
The model for your business, and so
Mhm.
which I'm assuming is, you know, CSA is a CSA, but this for folks who are
Mhm.
familiar with community supported agriculture, I'm part of a CSA. It's getting your flowers on whatever, you know, cadence that you deliver those, whether it's weekly or biweekly. And so
Mhm.
did you know that that was a route that you wanted to go when you start the business, or is that was something that you were consulting on with like thought partners, or because I think I love CSAs and I think it's a wonderful model, but you know, how has that been for you and um, to support your business financially? Do you think it's something that works?
Um. Yes. I started. I I always like when I well always when I initially was like I'm not working for white folks who don't really understand that like agriculture was built on slavery and you can't have interns live in a shack with no water. It's not right. When I got tired of that, I I was like, okay, well, I would have a CSA. It's for me, it's the easiest way because you're getting the money up front. So in the spring, you have time to like prepare, buy the stuff that you need, and everything is just like one lump sum, right? I charge $200 like plus tax for the CSA, and then I do sliding scale for Black parents, um,
Oh,
and I say $60 minimum. Oh, and then also like people have brought shares, and I've gifted them to other people who were like, I can't afford this, and the
yeah.
qualifications are just like being a Black or brown person
Mm-hmm.
and having a child. People with kids go first, the kids have to be first, and then other people who like want to join who don't have children or whatever, they're just like young and kind of broke or don't have it like that, I will gift the share to them.
That's
And
awesome.
I also will do design work, um, and also have people contact me, and I make bouquets or um, I did something with like the birth network here, and they help like Black women, um, and they have like doulas and midwives, and they had like a little event, and I donated some stuff to them. Yeah. I just try to, I don't really have the large structure. So, or like the large refrigeration. So I'm limited in what I can do.
Hmm.
So yeah,
You don't have it yet. You will.
I
It's
will
coming.
have it. Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. You will. You
Yes.
will. You will. And I'm jealous as I wish I was in Troy to, invest in your CSA because I would. I
Well, you
totally
could
would.
buy a share for someone else, and
Yeah,
you
I'm
can know
going
that
to.
it's going to a person who needs it. You know.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing
Mhm.
that. I will definitely take that consideration because I love to do
Yeah.
stuff like that. And,
Yeah.
I also acknowledge that, again, for someone who invests into a CSA, it is a privilege. I recognize that. Like it really is. It just is. I say that, I buy into a CSA and it is a privilege. And I love
Mhm.
the fact that our local farmer does the same thing, with CSAs and for those who aren't able to afford it, if there are boxes and stuff left over, just really having that reach out to families who would not otherwise be able to afford a box of produce, especially families, mom, kids, it's a lot. It's a lot. But thank you for sharing that. Um, as you've already spoken to, the floral industry does not look like many of us. Does not, not too many Shanices walking around here, not
No.
at all, right? At all. But we are changing that because, your business is here and there are other Black florists, who are doing phenomenal work. And so I'm hoping that that changes. I'm hoping that a lot of things change within the agriculture industry, right? Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And so, from what I understand, and actually, I think I've listened to one of the news clips that you were on, and that you are part of a group of Black women florists and Black florists that support each other because this industry is so white. It's so white.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
just speaking to that, pardon me, what are some of the resources that you feel like you still need or you need in order to scale your business and as a Black person in this space that you don't have access to, that would be easier for our white counterparts at arm's length, just to reach out and just boom, be able to scale their business? What are some of those key things that you feel like you still need in order to scale?
Well, I I'm pretty lucky right now. I'll say that my very wonderful and close friends actually purchased land. Um, these are Jewish white couple. Um, and I'm going to be working on their land. Um, no strings attached. Just like make a vegetable garden. Like don't use so much water. You know, for them.
Mm, yeah, yeah.
Um, but before it was land access. I'm struggling chef, right? And then, well, I was making pretty good money when I was cooking, but trying to transfer out of that, not working because I'm doing the CSA, and also because it's not like New York City where I could get a job pretty much talking my way into anything.
Mm-hmm.
They want at least a bachelor's degree. They want somebody who isn't going to put up as much of a fight or have as many opinions. Um, just like a complacent,
Mm,
conformed, you know.
right.
They don't care about meeting diversity quotas out here. Um, and also, there's just a lot of sensitivity training that needs to happen. Um, so I think immediately my obstacles would be if I decided to really scale up would be refrigeration.
Okay.
And this would require me building a like kind of a small cooler outside with a cool bot inside. Cool bot is something, it works on an AC unit, like a regular AC unit, and it's just like this little computer. You slap it on and it like controls, it tricks the AC into like making any room a fridge.
Okay. Because I was like, educate me because I don't know what that is. Thank you.
Yeah, cool bot. lot basically could like you could build a structure a certain way, put an AC in it, and then connect the cool bot to it, and it makes it a
Very
fridge.
cool. Very cool. Thank you.
Uh, a lot of people don't realize this, but like refrigeration is a really big thing if
It
you're growing
is.
flowers, um, because that allows you to cut in advance and hold flowers. Some things hold for weeks, you know, if they're cut closed. Like
So
peonies can be at a certain stage, and you could put them in the fridge, and they will not open in the fridge because they're tricked into like thinking they're asleep. You know what I mean?
wow.
So it makes the flowers. I always say like crispy. You know, so they let's say it's hot outside, they'll get wilted. You put them in the fridge, they'll perk up and become like crispy and like open. You know, nice.
I am
So
learning
refrigeration,
today. Okay.
and then also I'm trying to think. I think like long term, um, probably just like getting it together and like having my own space and like being
Mm-hmm.
able to like do the programming that I want to do. Um,
Mm-hmm.
could I elaborate on this, or is there more?
No, you
If
can
I
elaborate.
okay,
Yes,
yeah.
please.
So
I'm up here just like soaking it all
so
in. Yes.
it's like I have the CSA, right? But like my intention is not to really. It's a business. You know what I mean? It's there to make money. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so is all the other design work that I do. Um, but I want to create space and facility for Black, Brown, women, um, people, um, and I want to be able to like have a healing center, um, and just like have structure and like basically be a facilitator on my land, right? Like have a barn space that's a design studio for me, and then like be able to have that space rented out or of low cost and have like all these Black people who work in wellness come by and hold space and like reach out to people in the city who need to get away, who have never seen nature or been around any of
Mm.
that. So I kind of just want to like curate a safe space for people that is not only for my own profit or benefit, but for the benefit of others.
Oh my. All right, we put that out there, Shanice. That's happening.
Yeah.
It's
I
happening.
hope so.
And I'm be the I'm
Yeah.
listen, whatever I can do to support, it's happening. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I recently I know an amazing black florist here, and she does these really great flower labs, and I had her host one for me at my place, and I needed it for my own mental health, wellness, because I
Yeah.
am like I said, the pandemic has been very, really weird, and I'm still affected by it. I tell people I am very open about that. Like I
It's
am
still going
still,
on.
it's still
It's still going
happening.
on. Everyone forgot. It's still happening.
Yes, I'm like, did
It's
y'all just
endemic. It's
like,
still happening.
yeah? I'm like, y'all are just moving on, living your
We're
best
mad.
lives, and I'm over here
Yeah.
like biting my nails. Like, what is going on here? Like, this is strange. And so,
Yeah.
with that, I know that I need to. For me, I made an intention to host something like very intimate, with close people, that would contribute to, my mental health and well being. And
Yeah.
so when I learned that she was doing these amazing flower labs, we did a eucalyptus shower bunch, like making shower bunches. And when I say my place smelled like a heavenly floral bath of some sorts, the
Yeah.
entire, I mean, like she brought in all these flowers. Like I
Mhm.
was just in like this really even more safe haven that just felt immediately great. So when you're talking about this much larger space, like it is so needed, because I knew that I needed it. And so I was telling my friends, I said, listen, like, yeah, I kind of did this for you, but I really did this for me, and I just invited you guys
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I really needed it. Right. But
Yeah.
I love that, I know that you've had your own, experiences and trauma in farming spaces, right? And just being a black person, we just carry, it comes with having trauma, right? But
Mm.
also, I think it says a lot in not just centering yourself and just the model and the business, but like people. So
Yeah.
contributing to people and the planet, it's just, I think that's amazing. And we're calling it. It's going to happen. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. I love that. I do. So we are going to wrap up in just a moment, but I think this is another great segue into calling out, and also let me just back up. Thank you for that education for flowers, because I know that we have not dived into a lot about floral education, and I didn't know none of that. Okay, I just
People
know
don't
great
know how it
people.
works. People don't know how it works. And like one more thing, like
Yes,
I feel
please.
like brides are really conditioned to needing a certain thing, and what needs
Mhm.
to happen are people who are getting married or need flowers. They need to think about what region they are in, what grows around you, what is available, right? Like if it's right now, maybe there's some stuff out there that didn't get frosted, right?
Mhm.
But also like then it becomes like dried flowers, right? Like now I'm like using the other stuff to dry. Or
Yeah. Oh, I
it's a
love dried
certain time of the month
flowers.
you're not gonna get something from me that I don't live in Ecuador. I'm not in zone 7, I'm zone 5, right? So a
Mhm.
lot of the stuff I use most commercial florists would consider a weed or something that's just like outside, right? But you've seen
Really?
my Instagram, right? Like you've seen like
Mhm.
all the things I'm using. Like these are like asparagus fronds. These are like milkweed. It's like weird, native and like perennials and things that like really should be in our landscapes instead of
Mhm.
like throwing grass seed out. Um, so
And and you're
that
just
that
over in
is
Troy.
another.
And you're over in Troy, just bringing all the pollinators. Okay, got all the things buzzing around. Well, I know you did over the summer.
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
So
that's
that's another a part of my mission too. I mean, I know that doesn't come easy. Obviously, like I'm not a nonprofit. I'm not one of those people who's gonna like sit here and be fake about it. Like if somebody
mhm,
comes to me with the right amount of money and they want me to order those flowers, I'm gonna order them and make the
mhm,
designs,
mhm,
right?
mhm, mhm.
Um, but ideally, like that is not the kind of work that I do, and I really want people to like know like you do not need these tropical flowers like when you need them and right now. Like it is
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
So with
really
the
bad.
business, yeah, it comes that education piece, right? And then
Yeah.
also, first of all, not everything is for everybody. So,
Yeah.
like if you like listen, and I get it, it's like you are growing what is available, what's in season,
Hmm.
hyper locally. Like that is your mission. And I think,
Yeah.
you can't blame everyone. It's just like people they just think flowers are
No,
flowers, but it's
people
they
don't
don't
know where
know.
they come from. They just don't know. I grew up
Exactly.
not really knowing until I started to cook, right? Like I just didn't know. It's not something they teach in school.
No, I didn't know either
Yeah.
until I became a grown ass adult.
Right.
I was like,
Food
oh,
comes from
these
the supermarket. Right.
exactly, exactly. And it's just like, oh no, yeah. And by the way, I love dried flowers. Okay, so I'll walk down the
Yeah.
aisle with some dried flowers any day. I love them. They're
It's in
beautiful.
it's in season. It's
Yeah,
in season. Like it's a winter wedding. You don't need it's a winter wedding. You don't need all this crazy stuff.
you know what? And with that, you need to this is a plug. If you want to do it, you need to start a course. I'm great for plug-in things to make extra money. Do a course, this because we need that
Yeah.
education.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I definitely need to uplift your GoFundMe because I'm about to drop that in the chat. And
Mhm.
for those who are listening, I really want, listeners to support your business and everything that you have going on. And if you are not in Troy, like myself, I'm in DC, consider buying a share so that we can gift someone who needs it. So definitely want to push that out. So just in
Mhm.
another way of supporting your business and the resources that you need. I'm going to drop the GoFundMe there in the chat for listeners who come across the segment and encourage them to support. And y'all size me up, like I supported this last week. I saw this, it was no question, like no question at all. So Queen's Cut Flower Farm, please support. And It's been a pleasure to talk with you, Shanice. It's been such a
Yes,
pleasure.
it's been
Yes.
good.
And we have, yes, I agree. I agree. Such an inspirational story. Thank you for sharing. Yes, I totally agree. I totally agree. And I look forward to all the things that you have manifested up, right? So,
Oh, that's
whether
the
it's
little
in,
bubble that comes up as a person. Who was that? That was Joe.
oh, yep, sorry, yep, Joe. Such
Oh,
an
that's my
inspirational
partner.
story. Hey, Joe. Thanks for showing up, Joe. Yes,
That's
it
my
is.
man.
That's awesome. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for showing up. Awesome, Joe. We appreciate you. We so appreciate you. So I also dropped your handle into the chat, but just let folks know where to find
Cool.
you from your mouth on Instagram, GoFundMe, your website, all the things.
So website is still downloading. You can find me
That's all
on
right.
Instagram, Queenz with a Z, and X cut X flowers, and that's my Instagram handle.
Awesome.
And you could just go to the GoFundMe. Um, just type in GoFundMe and go under the Heroes tab, and you'll see my story, and you can donate from there.
Yes, and it's a beautiful
Yeah.
story. Hit play, y'all. Hit play on that. I
Mm-hmm.
also listened to the segment that they did as well. It's phenomenal. Really great
Yep.
piece. So before we wrap up, Shanice, one edible act that anyone can take today after listening to this show.
One act. I think I'm just gonna repeat this again. I think just really buckling in and maybe like, dang. I think just like questioning where you're buying produce and flowers and goods from, looking at the back of those labels, looking at, listen, we're all like struggling, like people are broke right now. Conventional vegetables are cheap. But there are pathways. Um, there's free fridges, like there's a free fridge here in the capital region. I know there's free fridges downstate in the city too. Um, just like, and those are stocked with farm produce or meals. But just really questioning where you're getting your products from, looking at the back of those labels. That also is a part of it, and like actually being like, okay, this is trash. I'm not gonna buy it. You know, or like I don't know where this comes from. It's unusually large and just tastes like water. Just
Uh,
like really
and
think
when you
about it.
and when you've had some really great produce locally and
Celery
hyper
is not the
locally
same celery it is in the
at all,
supermarket or yeah,
and
field. It's
neither is
very
a
different.
tomato.
Tomato.
No.
People always hate tomatoes. Tomatoes actually taste really good. You just have never had a real tomato. They're not supposed to taste like grainy water, you know?
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Amen to that. All right, Shanice, thank you so much again. Thank you all for tuning in. Again, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please find Food Talks in Color on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, love it with your heart, drop a comment. Let us know what you loved about the show. Support Shanice's GoFundMe page. I have dropped her links into the chat. Support, support, support. And so, as always, y'all be safe out there. Peace. Until next time.